Alright guys, we have a 2000 Honda Accord 4-cylinder manual transmission. I've been having some issues since I've had it for about a year with it hard starting, and then recently it decided to just die on me while it was running. So what I want to do before I start throwing more parts and time into it, I've already replaced the fuel pressure regulator. That didn't fix any issues. Oh, and also it has a couple codes, so P0170, P0171, so it's running lean and the fuel trims are off. So I wanted to hook up a fuel pressure tester gauge. So I got this one here at Harbor Freight. And the reason why I got it is because under some preliminary research I learned that some Hondas you can tap in with an adapter like this one. This is, if I can get it to focus, a M12 by 1.25 thread. But it turns out on this generation, and with a lot of things with this car, everything's proprietary. So let me get my light here. There are a lot of things about this car that aren't as easy to work on as other Hondas, but this is one of them. So we have our fuel line here, which connects here from the firewall down to this little bolt on the fuel rail, and then there's a little damper that goes on here. Well, so long story short, my fittings and adapters won't work, and I did a ton of research, could not find a single article where someone explained, or a blog post or forum post about how to hook up a fuel pressure gauge. So what I ended up doing was going to the junkyard today, and because there's always going to be a 4-cylinder Accord there, got another soft line from the firewall. So what I'm going to do is use this hose cutter, cut it in half, and then use the T adapter to hook up the fuel pressure gauge. So let me get started on that, and I'll show you if it works or not. Alright, so how to get this fuel line off. So with the pulse damper on, that's what secures the fuel line. So this is just a 7/8 nut right here, and you can just unscrew that off. Oh, and don't lose that washer. That washer is important. But yep, so when you take that off, the soft line for the fuel feed just can slide off here. There is another washer down there, so watch out for that. Make sure not to lose that. And then up here, we actually have a flared coupling or connector right there for the hard line. So that's a 14mm. And with any flared connector, you always should use a flare nut wrench, because it can slide and grip it on 5 sides. So slide that in there. And it's lefty-loosey, but it's kind of upside down, so you're actually going to turn it, push it that way. So let's do that. Alright, that was tougher than I thought. You should spray some penetrating fluid on this. But yep, now that becomes free, we'll just unscrew this the rest of the way. And then also, don't forget, these firewall bolts are part of the bracket, does not separate. So remove those, and then you'll have that free. Okay, so I cut the line and I put the T adapter here. I figured I'd cut it not right in the center, but just based on how this hose flexes, I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't have any flex issues once I reattached the fuel line. So I figured if I put it right here instead of dead center, this part's a little straighter, so it actually should work like that. So stay tuned. Alright, so got this T-line hooked up. Put hose clamps on there. And yeah, the pressure gauge is working. So one recommendation I'd make with this setup is, see, this is almost kinked here. It's not totally kinked, just almost. This T-piece in here that I've inserted is a little long, and it comes with two different diameter sections where you can attach the hose to. So if you have a smaller diameter fuel line, you can attach it to the thinner part here. But since this is pretty thick, it's the main fuel feed, I had to use the thicker section up here to use the hose clamps on. You could probably, if you're comfortable with it, just hacksaw the thinner part off so it's not such a long piece, so you don't have this kink here, and it would you know, flow a little better. But it's one thing I would have done differently. And I think that's our problem right there. It's supposed to be around 45 psi or 40. So yeah, that's way too low. Alright, another test that you're supposed to do is, I'm going to turn off the car and see if it maintains pressure. So let me get this focused. There we go. Turn off the car. Yeah, it just that is not supposed to happen. It's supposed to maintain some pressure. This is what it looks like when I prime it without starting it. So here's the prime. It goes up to 10 psi immediately. So I'm assuming the check valve in the fuel pump is shot, and that's why it doesn't hold pressure, as well as it just straight up died on me. So I did get this highly rated pump for 25 bucks on Amazon. What's the brand? It is Custom Fuel Pump. But these pumps are pretty universal, and so you don't need to replace the whole carrier and sending unit, just the pump. And I will do that, and I'll tell you what happens.